Hello and welcome to Straight Shooting with Dan and Joseph. Tune into this podcast to get the latest news on competitive shooting events and to learn how to become a better shooter. Remember to subscribe to the podcast and be sure to recommend it to all of your shooting friends. Hello, I'm Dan Kello along with Joseph Stacker here, already on episode number 14. I like 14. 14 is my lucky number. That was my number playing basketball, and now my son wears number 14 playing baseball. So 14's always been a good number for me. Today we've got a bunch of score updates. It took a while for the shooting season to get going, but it's finally rolling big and strong now, and people are shooting just about every day of the week. We've got updates from the ARA. Joseph is primarily on his bleeding off today, is going to recap the Area 3 USPSA championships he went up to in Nebraska, as well as the American Small Bore Association, the ASSA recap that he was at in Bristol, Indiana, with some F-class, 3-position, and prone, all small bore 2-2 stuff. We're also on Precision Shots going to go over the rimfire rests. I'm going to talk a little bit about what rest I use, the rests that are available out there, 1-piece versus 2-piece. And I also want to acknowledge our sponsorship, Ely Ammunition. Make the world's greatest 22 long rifle ammunition, and also now making 38 Super Comp that meets major power factor for USPSA. So go to ElyAmmunition.com. All right, match updates. I've got quite a few. We had an Area 3 ARA, so ARA has started doing area tournaments this year, and had an Area 3 tournament in Livonia, Indiana, at the Livonia Conservation Club. Factory class, Bob Huth was the winner, with Steve Franklin in second, John Rupert in third. In the Unlimited, Steve Scott won it, Richard Gorham in second, and Frank Shook in third there. You may recognize Richard Gorham's number as a gunsmith from Oklahoma we do a lot of work with. The next day, they had their club tournament. Bob Huth again won the factory, with John Rupert this time moving up to second place. Unlimited, Marion Collier from Louisiana was the winner, with Marvin Batliner and Greg in second, and Greg Monroe finishing out the top three. The next day, also on the 8th, Old Capital Rod and Gun Club down in Tulsa, or right outside of Tulsa, had the Oklahoma State Tournament, with Jim Moorhead winning it, Richard Gorham in second, and Noah Johns in third. So I was reading through them, and I didn't realize Richard shot in Indiana on Saturday. And then drove back. Of course, he's from Oklahoma. Drove back home and shot again the next day. Finished second at both places. Colorado Rifle Club also had the Colorado State Tournament. The factory class, Mike McAvoy was the champion. Unlimited class, we had Tony Jurek was the winner. Eric Alford second. Clinton Flannery third. Up in Michigan at Tri-Town Conservation Club, they had their club tournament. John Carper from Indiana was the winner there. Jim Dyke second, and John's son Gabe Carper, junior shooter, come in third. Congratulations to them. Factory class, William Litz was first. John Rupert was over there as well. He come in second, and Tom Kiefler was third. Northland Fish and Game had the Iowa State Tournament. Unlimited was won by Ron Elby, second by Brian Volker, and third by Bob Barnhart. Glad to see Bob Barnhart's name back in there. Bob has been in and out on the shooting, has won the ARA National Tournament a couple times. His work requires him to move around the country quite a bit, so sometimes he gets into areas of the country that don't have much ARA, and so we haven't seen him shoot for a while, but obviously he's back at it and in the top three, picking up right where he left off. All right, previewing what we've got coming up for ARA, American Rimfire Association. This is all 22 long rifle bench rest. A bunch of matches, bunch of big matches in August, as everybody's had to push them back from earlier in the year. So these last couple of weeks of August, there's tournaments and club tournaments all over the place. Ohio, Lancaster Pistol and Rifle Club on the 15th is going to have a club tournament. Rimfire Ridge down in Arkansas on the 15th is going to have a club tournament. The Bench Rest Rifle Club of St. Louis on the 15th is going to have the Missouri State Tournament. In Kansas, the Horton Sports Complex is going to have the Kansas State Tournament. Wisconsin, Van Dyne Sportsman's Club is going to have their state tournament. Kentucky, Caldwell County Sportsman's Club is going to have a club tournament. Nebraska on the 16th is going to have their state tournament, and that's a fun one to go do. If you can, go shoot the Kansas state tournament on Saturday at Horton, and then drive up to Nebraska and shoot their state tournament on Sunday. I've done that a couple of years, and it's not a horrible drive. You can do it on Saturday evening after the match is over. California, I have to see if they're still going to have this. Modesto Rifle Club is still down for a club tournament today. And on Sunday in Wisconsin, they're going to move down to the Menominee Falls Rod and Gun Club is going to have a club tournament on the 16th. Up in Maine, Maine's going to have the Maine State Tournament on the 18th. 22nd, Open Grove out in Oxnard, California is going to have a club tournament. 22nd, Ohio, Hilltop Bench Rest Rifles is going to have a club tournament. Green River Gun Club in Kentucky is going to have a club tournament. These on the 22nd. Virginia, Missouri on the 23rd. Over near Kansas City, Pioneer Gun Club is going to have the club tournament on the 23rd. Nebraska, Southwest Nebraska Rifle and Pistol Club is going to have a tournament. Ashtabula in Ohio is going to have a tournament on the 23rd, as well as in Wisconsin at Willow River Rod and Gun Club on the 23rd. Kentucky on the 29th. Going to have two of them. Buck Creek's going to have a one in Kentucky on the 29th, and Green River Gun Club. Also, Buckeye Rimfire Club. That's all leading up to Labor Day weekend. Bench Rest Rifle Club of St. Louis up in Wright City, just a little bit north and west of St. Louis. We're going to have the ARA National Tournament, the Professional Shooting League's Shilling Challenge, as well as the Professional Shooting League main event. This is all 22 bench rice. It's always on Labor Day weekend. We'll have the range open on that Thursday for practice all day long. On Friday, we'll have the PSL Shilling Challenge and your last chance to qualify for the PSL main event. PSL main event will be a 3-target event on that Friday evening. It's to qualify for it, you need to finish in the top 10 at any of the other PSL sanctioned events. So you can still finish in the top 10 on Friday morning at the Shilling Challenge to qualify. Then there's no entry fee into the main event, and we put them all right there side by side, shoot 3 targets, and the winner gets $10,000.
Yeah.
Nobody else gets anything. They get a small trophy and $10,000. We put all the money to now I'm trying to remember. We have $10,000 in prize money.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut that out because that was wrong. All right, for the main event on that Friday evening, we'll have 3 targets. There's $10,000 in money given away, $5,000 to first place, $3,000 to second place, and $2,000 to third place. So big cash money for the main event. Again, to qualify for it, you have to finish in the top 10 of any of the other PSL sanctioned matches. Then on Saturday and Sunday, we'll have the ARA National Tournament, both unlimited and factory class. We shoot 5 targets on Saturday. Come back on Sunday and shoot 3 more targets for a total of 8. That's always one of the bigger 22 bench rest events of the year. So we want to invite everyone to come out. Just go on to proshootingleague.com and you can pre-register for that match. Put down on there, we will have multiple relays to make it easier. We rotate a couple of times, and it's a good thing to buddy up with somebody. It really helps on rotating around.
And we'll be there Thursday.
Yeah, we'll be there with the Kilo Shooting Sports trailer selling stuff, so it's always a good time to see everybody, have fun, and get in there and get stocked up on supplies. All right,
and since you're talking about upcoming matches,
yes,
for USPSA, the next match that we'll be at is Area 4 in Arkansas, and that's September 16th. And then in October, we have Race Gun Nationals, which is back in Florida, and that's on October 23rd.
Yes. All right, getting those coming up. What about a recap on the ASSA? I've got a list of things here. Joseph was there. What'd you think about your first time? Now this is American Small Bore National Championships. They shoot, of course, all small bore, all 22, and they have F class, but it's primarily known for the three position and the prone.
It was interesting. That was, like you said, that was my first time seeing one of those matches. I've watched the Olympic matches on TV, but they're not really this. I mean, you see the highlights, but
Right.
you don't see the entire match, and it's a pretty lengthy match. And I didn't realize that they shot. I knew that they shot different distances, but I didn't realize that it was all back to back to back, because you literally have your first target is, I don't remember if it's feet or meters first, but it's one or the other. So you'll do 50-50 and then 100, and that goes meters, feet, and then
Right.
meters again. And then they also kind of interchange the sight setup that you're
Yes.
allowed to use. So you have iron sights, scoped rifles, which may not be the scopes that we would initially think of, like a magnified scope. You know, some of them are basically just peep sights, but then they also have any sight. And
Yeah.
we kind of played around with the match that we put on where they shot the ARA targets. They did really well.
Hmm.
They had it couldn't be iron sights basically, and I think that they still would have done well even with iron sights.
Yeah, the main problem with iron sights on ours is just there's not a good aim point for them.
Right.
It's too small.
And they did well. There were some high school, like some 2350s. I think there was a
On the
2400.
on the factory target.
Yeah, on the factory target.
Yes.
But even the F class guys that shot it, because those are, now that I've seen it, because you just hear everybody talk about F class, but I had never watched it. It's essentially bench rest, just prone.
Yeah, you're just laying on your belly.
Yeah, and you're not on a bench, but it's still a very steady base because they've got these big, huge bipods and a giant rear bag. So it's a little bit different, but not crazy. You could definitely shoot both and be very comfortable using the same rifle.
Yeah, a lot of them we built just basically like we'd build a bench rest rifle,
Yeah.
build one for them for F class. Okay, so they had iron sights, which is basically for those that are new to this, that's basically just a peep sight. 3 position championship, meaning they shoot standing, kneeling, and prone. And the overall winner for that, now it's a several days event, but the overall winner for that was Tim Sherry. Tim Sherry is a serviceman, is in the United States Army Marksmanship Unit. Second place was Sagan Madalena. Say that right?
I think so.
Madalena. And third was Sarah Beard, and all three of them were in the Army Marksmanship Unit. Fourth place was Virginia Thrasher,
Jenny Thrasher.
or Jenny Thrasher, and many of you may remember that name. She was in 2016 the Olympic gold medalist for 3 position air, and she actually got a little publicity over it because it was the first gold medal for the U.S. coming out of those games, and
Right.
so there was a little bit of lag before there was another one, and so NBC was kind of forced to talk about it because it was the only gold medal that the United States had.
And she'll be in the next Olympics, I believe. Like she's
Believe so.
already been.
That they pushed off till next year.
Yeah.
All right, and then now the any sights that he's talking about. So that was the Iron Sights 3P Championship. And now the any sights. Let me make sure I'm getting all mine here right. Yeah, those are all prone. Okay. So then they do the same thing with any sights, which means basically you can shoot your iron sights again, or you can shoot a scope. And-
Whatever you feel like you're better with
Right.
is what everybody does.
And Sagan Madalena won that, Sarah Beard in second, and Patrick Sunderman came in third there, all three again going to the Army Marksmanship Unit. So then the grand overall ag was Sagan Madalena in first, Sarah Beard second, and Tim Sherry came in third. They also do prone, where that is several days of prone shooting. They do the same thing with the metallic sights or peep sights as well as any sights. And on the metallic sights, the champion was Jenny Thrasher. She won it on the prone metallic sights. Steve Angeli was in second, and Tim Sherry was third. The any sights in prone, Patrick Sunderman was the winner. Brandon Muskie in second, Tim Sherry in third. And then your overall prone championship then gives Tim Sherry the championship, Patrick Sunderman in second, and Sagan Madalena there in third place. We'd mentioned they also were doing some of the F class. In the F class overall, it was James Hiddle was your winner, David Pessel was in second, and Daniel Pagliari in third place for the F class guys. All right.
I believe 7 out of 10 of the top 10 were all shooting easy.
Okay, very good. Good match then for Ely Ammunition there. Now you were also up, so you went straight from Bristol, Indiana, over to, where'd y'all actually stay in Nebraska?
It's called Grand Island, and it's a decent sized town. I was expecting, pretty rural, but they had a lot of stuff there, like plenty of places to eat. The range was really nice. It was a very nice range, but they have the Hornady factory is in that town just a few miles from the range, and so I think that they put a lot of money towards it because you can go straight from their place to the range and directly try their product out. So I think they put a lot of time and money into it, and it was interesting because I had never been to they just call them gimmicky matches, and what they're referring to is they have a lot of props and strange shooting positions, and it's more of like a circus act sort of instead of what a traditional USPSA match would be. And I had never shot one of these before, and everybody told me it was going to be a circus, but I didn't really know what to expect. Like, I don't know what that means really until you get there and see it, and that's exactly what it was. And it was pretty difficult as far as the stage setup goes. It was probably the hardest match that I've shot because they had a little bit of everything. There were very long stages, both round count and target number in that sense, and also just distance. Also, like, one of them had steel and paper targets at 45 yards, and you could only shoot them from the very first shooting position, which you had to engage at 45 yards. And so it was a little bit of everything, and it was all difficult. Very strange shooting positions, and the formatting was a little different than what I'm used to. Like, usually you'll have disappearing targets, and the scoring on those changes because in USPSA rules, if it's not visible at rest, then it's a no penalty mic. So you can weigh the options on whether or not you want to actually engage it or not. But they had added these little shooting positions. Like, your shooting position may be here, and the disappearing targets are right in front of you, but they're visible from way over here, like 30 feet away. And it's not productive to run all the way over there to shoot these targets, but that makes them non-disappearing. And so it's kind of a little loophole thing that just adds a degree of difficulty. But it was difficult. The winners there for the overall were Aaron Edens, Andrew Hyder, Craig Tappy, Michael Leary, and Shane Coley. Those top four, other than Shane, are all shooting open. Shane is a limited shooter, and he also won limited. He's the Glock team captain, so he's kind of like the AMU guys. Like, when they show up, you expect them to win. And Carry Optics was Jason Bradley. BCC was Andre DeShuttle. Production was Nils Jonasson, and the single stack winner was Jeff Cawthon. And I finished third in C class. So from the 3 matches that I've shot since being classified, I've had first place finish. I actually got first in Oklahoma, which I didn't realize until they sent me the coin because I thought that I got second. But I guess they revised the scores and turned out that I actually won. And then I got third in double stack, and then third again in Nebraska. So I was pretty happy with that. I was happy with my hits, but it was a very difficult match. It was fun though.
Yep, and you had one little thing go wrong for you, didn't you? Kind of in the match with the gun.
Oh, my magwell fell off. I think it was on the. It was the second or third stage of the day because I was in the all-day squad, and I had never had issues with it before. It wasn't the whole magwell. It was the slick insert that kind of clicks into that, and it was a hoser stage. I mean, just you look at this and it's like one of those stages that you can't wait to go up there and just go as fast as you possibly can because they're all right in front of you. They're only like 5 yards away, and you can just mow them down. The difficult thing on that stage was they were funky round counts, and so I believe there were 3 bays, and it wasn't a very long distance. The first 3 targets, the round count was 3-3-2, and then the 2 in the middle were both 4, and then the last 3 were 2-3-3. And so it just throws these weird numbers in your head, and a lot of people just threw that out and just shot them all 3 times, except for the ones in the middle, because they were all 4, and then you literally just hose it. Well, by the second target, I noticed that my magwell was like hula hooping around the base pad of my mag, and it didn't take me. I'm surprised that it didn't take me very long to realize what was happening, because I paused for just a sec, saw that that's what it was, and it wasn't going to fall off, and so I just kept going. But after that, I mean, it didn't change. It didn't hinder anything on my reloads or anything, so not a huge deal. It was strange. I'd never seen it.
Always funny when you see something like that happen. You're not expecting to see how people react, because you haven't trained for it, and you got all these things, scenarios, and you're trying to plan everything out in your mind, and all of a sudden something like that happens.
Yeah, and everybody asked me, they're like, what happened? So, well, my magwell was flipping around the end of my magazine. Like, well, it didn't take you very long. No, honestly, I just didn't really realize what was going on, and I just saw that little piece after I'd figured out it wasn't going to fall. Because I was worried it was going to fall off or pull my mag out, but it didn't, so it kind of worked out.
All right, good deal. Well, we're going to move on now to Precision Shots. All right, Precision Shots brought to you by Kello Shooting Sports, your one-stop shop for your competition shooting needs. Today, we're going to go over one-piece rest versus two-piece rest, and now this is for rimfire bench rest that we're specifically talking about. Centerfire is going to be different. F-class is going to be a little bit different. Now, some of the sanctioning bodies will not allow a one-piece rest, and a two-piece rest is required. ARA factory class is a two-piece rest mandatory. Some when you do IR 50-53 gun, those are two-piece mandatory. IR 50-50 does just unlimited only, and in unlimited you can do the one-piece. PSL's everybody's just about one piece. Now you can shoot a two-piece when you can in an unlimited match, but 90% of the folks are going to shoot a one-piece. And a lot of these two-piece, when you get set up and you get used to them, they're just as good as a one-piece, but it's a little more work, and it's a little more, you've got to pay attention to exactly what you're doing. It's going to take some experience and time for you to get to where you can shoot one of those as good as a one-piece. A one-piece is pretty simple, and you get everything locked down, and that's easy way to go. I mean, if you're getting into unlimited for the first time, then I'd recommend just go with a one-piece, because it really is going to, there's going to be a learning curve if you're new to this and you start off with a two-piece setup. Now, I do have a two-piece setup, and there are a bunch of them out there, because Centerfire requires, and a lot of their bench rest requires a two-piece setup. So you've got a lot of the coaxial rest or joystick type rests, where they're going to have a front rest and has a joystick that sticks out. Caldwell has come out with one I think they call Fire Control, which is a cheaper one. And you just basically take that handle and you can go up, down, left, and right. And it's really, really quick. You can really move around. But it was designed for centerfire bench rest, and all they're going to do is have siders and then shoot a 5-shot group. So they're not really doing a tremendous amount of moving. And the one thing that separates the really good ones from the really bad ones on these is basically like a sag or a settle, to where when you move that thing and you let go of that handle, does it still stay right there?
Right.
But in the really good ones, which are over $1,000, have very minimal movement. And the cheaper ones are ones that are going to sag or settle there, and it's just something you got to be aware of. You're going to have to hold on to that handle or
know where it's going to drift.
Exactly, and be prepared for that. There's also plenty of mechanical front rests out there. You can get those at Sinclair. Is a really popular place to get one. There's Caldwell makes some, The Rock, Bald Eagle. There's a bunch of different ones out there. And basically what they're going to have is a course adjustment for elevation, to where you're going to turn and get that reasonably close on the elevation and lock that down. And then most of them will have a windage adjustment too. It's kind of a fine windage adjustment. Now your ultra basic ones are not, and you're just going to move the bag and squeeze the rear bag and move it around to get finally on sight. The one that I like and most is probably the most popular in the rimfire bench rest is from Randolph Machine, and you'll hear this called the Fulgham rest. And the reason they call that is because Ken Fulgham designed and made these while working at Randolph Machine. And he might have even been owner of Randolph Machine at one time. I'm really not sure about that. But he's retired now, doesn't work there any longer. But Randolph Machine still make these. And it's a $750 rest without a top. It's got interchangeable tops that you can get, so that, because like for rimfire in the IR-5050, when you're shooting 3-gun, you're going to shoot a sporter that has a 2¼ inch wide forearm, and you're going to shoot your 10.5 and 13.5, which is going to pound rifle, which you're going to have your 3-inch forearm flat, like which is the traditional bench rest stock. So they have interchangeable tops where you just loosen 2 little thumb screws and you can pull the 2¼ inch bag off and slap the one with the 3 on there. And then people have come on now and made all kinds of different tops. And one thing that has come about with a lot of this is now a lot of the one-piece rest makers out there, from Pappas and Precision Quest Products and Arnold, Cliff Arnold that's making some, John Pierce that's making some, just about everybody has gone to having that one universal front top, that all of these tops that are available can be put in and on. So there's all kinds of front tops that you can use on that Randolph Machine rest, as well as a lot of the one-piece rest. Now, what I like about the Randolph Machine rest, and you'll see some guys in F-class using these, it's ambidextrous, so you're going to have your windage and elevation up on the front, and it's got basically a knob sticking out to the left side and to the right side that's going to be your windage. And what I'll do is, as I'm leaning forward, I'll put my 4 fingers on top of that windage, and then if you just like form an L with my left hand here, my thumb will go on the elevation knob. So it's going to have one knob that goes straight up and down, that's a big round knob, and that's going to be your elevation adjustment. And then you're going to have the knob sticking straight out to the side, that's going to be the windage. So I can lay my 4 fingers on the windage adjustment and put my thumb on the elevation adjustment, and I can sit there and work both of them at the same time.
Huh.
And it's really stable. I mean, when you stop, it stops. It's very, very well made. And I run mine with an Edgewood bag in the front. I don't really shoot much sporters, so I've just got the 3-inch one. And I don't use it a lot, but every once in a while we'll go to a IR-5053 gun, and so I've got it for that, and it works really well. So randolphmachine.com has them on their website. Very nice front rest. And if you're looking for a two-piece setup, that is something I would look at. You can also go to Sinclair. Sinclair's got a good kind of mechanical front rest. If you want a joystick, check out the Seb Neo SEB. Those are made overseas. I can't remember now, but he's out of the country. But those are real popular. Farley makes a joystick rest. It's pretty popular. Shade Tree Engineering has another one that's pretty popular, and you're going to see those more in the Centerfire bench rest, those joystick ones. But if you go to the Rimfire bench rest match, predominantly up and down that line, you're going to see that Randolph machine. Then you're going to have a rear bag. And rear bag, you can pretty well do what you want, but they'll have some big ones that are really, really heavy. And mine has a rear bag, but then it sticks out in the front, and it sticks out so far that you just rest your hand on it when you're pulling the trigger. And I don't squeeze the bags or anything. I still shoot those free recoil. You can still get those stable enough for rimfire that you can shoot them free recoil on them. But Edgewood is really popular rear bag. Check those out, as well as Bald Eagle. Bald Eagle is another one that's pretty popular that a lot of folks use. But the one I have is the Edgewood, and I like those. Made in New Mexico. Really good rear bag. My biggest experience has always been with the one piece. We went with the one piece from day one. Get-go, I had my Pappas rest. Pappas was out of Fort Worth, and I fell in with him pretty quick. Made a really nice aluminum one-piece rest. It's a wonderful craftsman. Made a really good product. And essentially what makes it easier is when you set up a two-piece rest, you really have to get the front and rear, the front rest and the rear bag lined up.
Right.
You don't want that thing kind of cattywampus, especially in the bag in the rear. And the other thing is then as you're with us shooting for score instead of just shooting groups, that means we're traversing 11 by 17 target or 14 by 17 if you're shooting IR 50-50, but ARA or PSL has 11 by 17 target. Well, we got to go all over that target. So as you move that front rest, the rear bag ain't moving. So technically as it moves across there, you need to adjust that rear bag ever so often so that it doesn't put it in a bind and come shooting back at an angle. As to where a one-piece rest takes care of all that. You don't have to worry about any of that. Everything's moving as you move that thing across. Most of the one-piece rests are going to have the windage and elevation fine adjustments in the rear of the rest, and then it just pivots around the front, and so the front's going to move with it, and you never have to worry about that being the front and the rear being misaligned and binding as that gun recoils. And that will, if you get it too far out of whack, it will give you some flipper shots that it's going to be a little bit different because it's not recoiling correctly and freely. So that's why I recommend it for somebody new to go with the one-piece rest, because you're not going to have to worry about that. Get everything lined up, getting those bags. There's another kind of art too when you do sandbags in both the front and rear. Now those guys do them to where they wind up being pretty darn hard and stable, but there's an art to doing that, and it's a learning curve on how to get that done and to get that to where it's going to settle and be nice and hard and stable from shot to shot, because you've got sand in there that's moving around. If you got it too loose, then it's going to be moving, and as the match progresses from the shaking it and everything from shooting, that bag's going to be different.
Right.
And anyway, there's an art and science to that. There's also an art and science to some stuff they put on them to make them slick. They generally are made out of Cordura or some other products that are fairly slick, but you do want to keep those slick so that, again, nothing is binding and being different from shot to shot. The thing is, you want it consistent every single shot. From the first shot of the match to the last shot of the match, it should recoil exactly the same. And a one-piece rest does that for you and takes a lot of that out and just makes it much, much simpler to set up. Now, Pappas, for many, many years, kind of ruled the roost on rimfire bench rest with the one-piece rest. He's no longer with us anymore, and so there's been some others come on that are making these, and John Pierce makes some that are really good. Cliff Arnold makes some that are really good, and they're all pretty close to being the same, with just a few little tweaks here and there from different people, and different ones doing some things a little different. Like they'll have a round crossbar in the front that basically is your front, serves as your front legs. Some of them will use the hexagon instead of the round bar. Some of them will be anodized them, making them different colors and make them look a little nice. Randolph Machine also has a one-piece rest, and theirs is a little bit different than everybody else's. And one of the things that makes it, it's a little bit shorter, and it has an adjustable portion on the rear, so where your stock rides on the rear of that rest, you can adjust the distance from the front to the back.
Okay.
So you can slide it in and out. If you got an ultra short stock or something, you need to move that forward, you can, and you can move it back a little bit if for some reason you got a little bit longer stock.
So on like the PQPs,
Yep.
they can't do that.
Right, it's fixed.
Yep.
All the other ones, that distance between the front where the forearm rides and the little, we call it a dog bone. It looks almost like a dog bone V back in the back where the rear of the rest sits. That is a fixed distance on all of those. And the other thing that's a little bit unique too on the Randolph Machine is all the other ones, the fine adjustment on the windage is a knob, and you're just going to turn that knob, or the joystick rest, which has the joystick, which is going to move you left and right. They've got a little cog wheel in the middle of it, and you just sit there and run it with your thumb. So right in front of it is going to be a knob that controls the elevation, and then just behind that knob is this cog wheel sticking up, and you run it with your thumb, and that's your windage going left and right. And so it's a little different.
Different?
It's different.
See, I
It's
don't
different.
think I've ever seen one of those.
I mean, and they look good. Randolph Machine makes some great products. There's no doubt about it. It's just that part's different. Some people prefer it, some people don't. But it's something to look at. And but they're a good, nice, stable rest. Like I say, the Pierce and Cliff Arnold are about the same. There's also the Precision Quest products, or PQP Light Rest. One-piece rest, and call it a light rest because it literally is lighter.
It's way lighter.
I mean, and it's still plenty heavy to be good and stable and everything, but a lot of people that don't like lugging around a 35-pound rest will take this one, which is about half of that, but still very stable. It just, and it's a little bit cheaper. I think the light rest is what, $550,
I think so.
which is going to be one of the cheaper aluminum one-piece rests on the market. And basically it just doesn't have any of the extra creature comforts or frills. There's absolutely nothing about it that's less accurate. It's just like on the front rest, on the light rest, when you do your course elevation adjustment at the beginning, most all the rest of them have a mariner's wheel or something that you'll turn to move it up and down. Light rest doesn't have that.
Right. You just set it and then tighten it down.
That's right. You just move it up and down. It's really tight on there, and you just slide it up when you get to the spot you want. You got your locking knob, and you turn it and lock it down. You've still got your windage and elevation in the back. The light rest also has two little Delrin buttons on the front. That's on the bottom that your stock will ride on, and then it has two that come in, one from either side, and one of them is spring loaded. So
and that's really the big difference, is because the joystick rest works off of like a free moving axis.
Yep.
And the light rest works off of resistance spring pressure, basically. Because same on the
right, it depends on what top you got on it, but yes,
right.
if you do that.
But even on the
fuzz button
windage,
top.
isn't it spring loaded from one side?
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying back there in the back. Yes, you're right.
It's like it's resistant.
Yeah, it has a resistance
instead
into
of
it.
Like a free axis.
Yes, you're correct. Now, the light rest works really good with one of your standard Macmillan fiberglass stocks. It has spring-loaded tension on the side of the forearms up there in the front. So you got two Delrin buttons on the bottom that's going to be riding on, and it's got Delrin coming in on the sides to hold it in place. One of those is spring-loaded. You can adjust that to vary the tension, but even at its lightest setting, it's still pretty tight. Works really good on fiberglass stocks. If you have a wood stock, it needs to be an extremely hard wood. If it's a softer wood, that sometimes will put too much pressure on there and is going to put some little grooves in there. So a lot of time for that particular rest, we really just recommend doing the fiberglass stocks. And other than that, I mean, that's about the major difference in the light rest. Then you have...
And you can't, on those you're not able to swap the...
Yeah, you can't swap the
top.
tops. The front top is what it is. You got the one top there. Then on the Arnold machine and Pierce, the PQP, they've got the interchangeable front tops like I talked about earlier, to where you can change out several different tops. The Randolph machine rest tops will work. You can put a sandbag top if you want to on there. A lot of guys like to do that. PQP also has what we call the fuzz button top, which was originally designed by James Pappas. But basically, there's two tops really that come with that you can get that Precision Quest products make. They make a Delrin top and fuzz button top. The Delrin top is, again, you got Delrin that stock's gonna sit in on the bottom, and it's got Delrin pushing in on the sides, which is a little bit different setup than on the light rest. And one of them is spring loaded, so that you do have tension from the side. It's a lot, not near the amount of pressure that it is on the light rest, and you can control it too. It does have a knob on the side where you can tighten it and loosen it to make it more or less spring pressure. And again, it's kind of the same thing. Those work really good with fiberglass stocks. Wood stock, you probably want to go with the fuzz button top. Fuzz button top basically has 2 points on bottom that has the fuzzy side of Velcro, little pads, just the fuzzy soft side that you would use in the Velcro on the bottom, and has some pads that it's riding on. And then you've got the same thing coming in from each side on the sides, but there's no spring pressure. Each one of them is knobs.
You set the adjustment on both sides.
Correct. You'll set that in where you want, and then it's got a couple lock nuts that you turn to lock it at that particular tension, and you can set it to where, I mean, you can literally have it too loose to where it's moving around up in there if you do it. Which one time, side note here, Dawn and I were shooting an indoor match, my wife and I, and we were shooting different guns. And the reason why we're shooting different guns, that's a story for another time. But we always shoot different guns now. We do not share the same gun. And I was shooting a fiberglass stock. She was shooting a wood stock. Well, all these wood stocks are handmade. Well, it was just a little bit more narrow than mine. Hers was.
Didn't quite fill that
Yeah,
space.
didn't quite fill that space. So she's shooting real good up in the top, get about halfway through the match, and all of a sudden she just has this horrible target. She's like, I don't know what's wrong. This thing is shooting all over the place. And so I go up there to pull her gun out to put mine in. And when I grabbed it, I realized, yeah, it was loose as heck up there on that front. When I put it back in there, I didn't tighten it down for her. But anyway, and she doesn't need to know about that. And if I want her to know about it, I'll tell her myself. But anyway, after that, she shot a lot better because I tightened up
It
her
was
stock.
indoors anyway. I mean, it didn't need to move.
Well, I mean, but still, it recoils back a little bit because
Yeah.
she a free recoil. But anyway, so you can have that too loose where it's flopping around up there, and the reason I'll share. We've got time today, so I'll share the story of the reason why we don't share rifles. We used to always share rifles just because it was easier on me, because I would set everything up and clean everything and do whatnot. And we go to the ARA National Tournament that's coming up here. We're shooting in it. And it was windy. And I'm running along, doing all right. I'm hanging out. I'm in the top 5, bouncing around up there, and we're doing good. And we had to move from one end of the range as we rotate. Then we used to rotate after every target. We moved from one end down to the other end, and the wind was just really wailing. So she was shooting right before me. And she shoot your target, and then she comes, and as she's coming off, walking off, she says, "I put a few clicks in the scope." And I said, and we'd kind of settled in, and I wasn't messing with it much because I'd kind of had the hold off about figured out,
That's-
you know. And then,
When you first said something, that was my guess, was that one of y'all is a hold off person and the other is a scope adjustment
Yeah.
person.
well, she decided she was holding off too far, and she needed to put a few clicks in it so that she didn't have to hold off as far. And so, this is like 2 minutes before they're about to start my line, you know, as,
We get
as
20
she's coming
minutes,
by.
just
I know.
sat it in real quick in the wind.
And I said, okay, first of all, how many clicks did you put in it?
Oh.
Well, exactly. I don't know, a few.
What direction?
And which one? And she didn't have a good answer for either question. And so
She didn't know.
yeah, and I'm fuming and trying to shoot and figure out where this thing's aiming in this god awful wind. And it ended up being my worst target. Knocked me way down. Well, I finally get everything figured out, and after that,
Went and bought another
yeah.
gun.
Well, no, I didn't do that. We shot for the rest of the match, but and she obliged me and didn't mess with the scope anymore. And I wound up coming in. The part that aggravates me about it, I wound up coming in third overall, and there was only 25 points between first, second, and third.
What could have been
Yeah, what could
that
have
one
been.
shot
That
or
could-
two shots? I
Well,
guess.
and that was the thing. That target, when she did that to me, that target was 200 points below my average on
You
all
only
the
lost
other
by
targets.
25.
I only lost by 25. But anyway, it was that. So we do not share rifles anymore, and she can turn and twist that thing all she wants.
Well, that probably worked because y'all have both shot 2,500 targets.
Yes.
Had you done that before or after you started shooting separate rifles?
No, it was before.
That probably worked for a while
Oh yeah, no, it did.
because y'all had a lot of success. Both of you did.
It did. It did. But better for us and better for the family if we just don't share anymore. Okay, all right, so joystick rest. I want to go over the joystick rest. I really like the PQP joystick rest. I really firmly believe that it is an advantage over the other rest. And the reason it is an advantage is because the fine adjustment on the elevation is a knob, like all of the other one-piece rest. What makes it quicker and nicer is the windage is on the joystick. So when you go to adjust from left to right, you can move really fast and get to the spot you're going to go. Now, the difference between this joystick and the joystick just front rest is it only does windage. It does not do elevation with the joystick. So you don't have to worry. It can't settle. It's on that fixed elevation knob, and there's no settling. When
So
you
it's
stop,
only
it
moving
stops.
left to
It's
right.
only moving one direction. And Jerry Stiller designed that. It was a genius design, I think. And I honestly think it is an advantage to have that because an ARA or PSL, most of us will hang our targets sideways. And the reason we do that is because most of the siders,
Or on the side.
that puts
Well,
the
when you-
siders on the side.
When you
when
lay them
turn.
that way, it puts them on the side.
So we get on a row going across and get our elevation where we want it, and then you just move in that joystick. And you can move over to the sider real quick and then move to the middle of the target, in just a split second. And it's faster than using your thumb on that wheel and turning that knob. And so I've always been a big believer and big proponent of when the wind's right and you know where the shots are going, you need to get them down range as fast as you can, and because it's going to change. And so if you're shooting them and they're in there taking the dot out, by God, run that thing as fast as you can. And so this enables me to run it faster, and is the big difference maker, I think, and a reason I like that rest so much. It's also got the, like I say, the interchangeable front tops. You can change out the tops, put all the other brand tops on it if you want, or the PQP has those, like I said, the Delrin and the fuzz button tops that work really well. So to sum it up, my advice is if you're new and you're looking at getting into this, just go ahead and bite the bullet and get you a one-piece rest. If you got a fiberglass stock and you don't really want to jump in there and spend $1,000 to get one of the PQPs or one of the other rests, the joystick rest from PQP, then get that light rest at 550. You're not going to have any accuracy. There's just, like I say, a few little creature comforts. It's got the knob on the back that's a little bit slower, but it's not a huge detriment. And that thing is certainly going to be very accurate rest for you. Cliff Arnold makes good ones. John Pierce makes good ones as well. Nothing wrong with those rests. There's been 2,500 targets shot on every single one of them. Richard Gorham is really the one who designed that light piece rest and made some before PQP started making them. And Richard Gorham still shoots them to this day. Jason Thornhill shoots one. So there's some very good shooters out there that shoot that style of rest, and it is very, very accurate. And if you got any questions on any of that, just be sure and email us, host@straightshootingwithdanandjoseph.com.
And the PQP rest is what I used because I think the year that I started, the Triple Crown was the first bench rest match that I ever shot.
Yep.
And I used the joystick rest, and it was extremely easy. I mean, you basically set it up as a new shooter. You look at it and go, okay, this is my left and right. This is my up and down. All I got to do is watch the wind. And that's basically all I did. And I didn't do bad. I had like some 1900s and some 2150s. And I'm not saying that I'm awesome, but for the first match I ever shot, I think I ended up being 40-something place out of 100 guys, like over 100 guys. And
first time out, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
And it's got a couple other creature comforts. It's got a hand rest on there that you can rest your hand on while you're holding it up on the trigger. The Mariner's wheel for your course elevation adjustment has roller bearings underneath it. Makes it nice and smooth and easy to move up and down.
And I like how I don't want to – nothing else on the rest would I describe this way, but the stands on it are very jagged. Like they dig into it. It doesn't matter what kind of bench you're shooting.
Oh, you're talking about the
legs
coming down?
They're not going to move because they are very sharp and very, like I said, jagged. And they work super well, especially with our super feet.
Yeah. If you're on a concrete bench, use the super feet to put those on. To give you a rubber base there to set the rest on. Joystick rest also, and some of the other ones too, have an integrated bubble level. Because like we say, we're moving left and right on the target, so you want it to track perfectly straight across, and so you need to level your target and then level the rest to that.
Yeah.
And I always too, before I shoot my target, I get all the way on the left-hand side, put my crosshair right on the center of the bull, and then I run it all the way to the other side, the opposite side, and make sure it stays on that. And if it doesn't, then you're going to adjust those leveling legs in the front to get it perfectly so that it tracks straight across, because I may not have hung my target just right or something's going to be a little bit off. But get those leveled up, and then when you need to zip across that target, you can zip across and know that the elevation is not going to change because the target's crooked, basically, and you're running uphill.
And that's the only thing, because what you were saying on the reason that we hang our targets sideways, it's not, I don't think it's just because the siders are on the side. That is a good thing.
Yeah.
But it's also, and it's nobody's fault, like in the manufacturing process. It's just an impossible thing to do. It does track completely level from left to right. But up and down, you have a little bit of sway. And that's because it's the way that that it is mechanically set up, you're not going to get that. It's an impossible thing.
Right.
Because that axis has to roll somewhere. And it's not going to, it's a ball, so it can't go straight up and down. And so
it's where the joystick is hooked onto it.
Right.
Because of the joystick is on there, it won't let it track elevation perfectly up and down.
Right. Because if it was the other way around, if it tracked perfectly vertical but not your elevation, then we wouldn't hang you would hang your targets vertically. But that's another kind of trick, because if you ever use one, you know that they do that. But if you haven't used one, you'll figure that out pretty quick, that the windage is perfect, but the elevation is a little bit off. Not enough to even make that big of a difference because you can see it as you're tracking it.
Another little thing that they've done on those is the middle plate on those is kind of beveled out. It has a sunk down area, and
your ammo fits perfect.
Yeah, your ammo fits up in there. And one of the things is, and this just comes from experience on running these around, is invariably when you go to these bigger matches, you're going to rotate and you're going to have to move benches. Well, you're picking this stuff up and hauling around. Well, you're going to have your super feet that you got your rest sitting on. You're going to stick that on top of the rest, and then you're going to stick probably a couple boxes of ammo on top of there. Well, most of them are just a flat piece of aluminum, so that thing slides right off on the ground. So this has a little bit of a sunk down area that helps hopefully hold that on while you're moving around from bench to bench.
And it does. I don't know if that was intentional. It probably was because
yeah, that's why we
Jerry's
wanted.
a smart guy.
He just turned it into a design thing where it looks more like
it
a
does
design.
look just like a design thing, but it has a function also.
Exactly. All right, very good. And like I say, any questions on those, email to us, host@straightshootingwithdanandjoseph.com. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this episode, number 14. Be sure and tune back in for episode 15. We're going to be right before the ARA National Tournament and the PSL Shilling Challenge and the PSL main event. We're going to give a good preview of that, and that'll be right before we're leaving. And we're also going to go over Ely Ammunition, go over their extensive line of 22 ammo, talk a little bit about the 38 Super Comp that Ely is now making, go over that. Remember to subscribe to our podcast, leave us a review, and follow our YouTube channel. Check out KSS and Ely on the Facebook and Instagram. Our website is straightshootingwithdanandjoseph.com. Our Instagram is straightshootingwithdnj. Joseph's Instagram is psphotog, and mine is Shooting Accuracy. Be sure and go on there and recommend this to all of your shooting friends. And we thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.